Hello. I know that you know your business really well. I know that you know your area of expertise really, really well. And sometimes when you're asked to present at a team meeting or you're asked to give some information or an update on what's going on, it's just kind of quicker and easier just to kind of sketch out what you're going to say and not really think too much about structure. But structure is really, really important. It's important for you and it's important for your audience. So today, I'm just going to talk about the 6 reasons why you really, really do need to use structure. So the first reason is to do with the circle of knowledge. So your circle of knowledge is like this. This is everything that you know about your role, your job, your specific area of expertise. It's huge, it's vast, it's ever expanding, and you're always making connections between things that you knew before and new things that you're learning. You have this huge schema of information in your mind. You have a wealth of experience. It's absolutely enormous. Now, imagining that circle, when you come to do your presentation, it's really tempting to kind of bring lots of that stuff in to explain the background and the context for the people that you're talking to. Now, sometimes they do need that background and context. Most times, most often they don't, because the circle of what they need to know is this. It's tiny, it's teeny, teeny, tiny compared to this vast, expanding schema of knowledge that you have. So if we don't have a structure, there's a real danger that we will overstuff our content. This is particularly true if you are a female leader. We feel like we have to justify our knowledge, justify our position, justify our right to speak at that particular meeting. And so we tend to stuff way too much information into our content. And that means you're likely to overwhelm yourself in the preparation, but you're also likely to overwhelm your listeners when they are listening. And I'm using overwhelm here as a euphemism for bore. And we really don't want to bore people. We don't want to over justify, give them too much information so they don't really understand the value of what we're delivering. Remember, you can always lean into your expertise. You can always lean into what, if they ask you for more information, more questions, you've got it at your fingertips or your tip of your tongue. You can explain more as you go along. You don't need to completely fill your presentation or your talk with too much content. Which leads me to my second thing. So the second reason why you need a structure is it will really help you have a clear message. Now, the clearer your message is, the more likely it is to land with your audience. The more stuffed it is with tangents and context and all this kind of stuff is going to make it harder for your audience to really, really understand. And if you've got a clear message, it's because you know where you're going. You've got a very clear destination in mind. So my audience need to know this. When I finish speaking, they need to be here, and currently they're over here. So you've got a very, very clear idea of where you're going. And you know why they need to understand it. It's not just that they need to understand this information, but you understand why they need to know that stuff. That's going to help you have a really clear message. And that way, if you know where you're going and why they need to know it and why they need to reach that destination, you can then make really neat decisions about what needs to be included and what can be left out of your presentation, because you're really clear about your destination. So your message becomes much, much clearer. And if your message is clear, it's going to move you on to number 3. It's going to help you be concise. Nobody anywhere ever complained about a presentation, a talk, a speech being too short. Ever. It just doesn't happen. But if it is short, it still needs to be insightful and informative. You can't just have a short presentation that isn't insightful. Otherwise, there's no point in you speaking. So it moves us on to number 4. So if you're using structure, it really helps keep your thoughts and your speech on track. So if you're someone who can find yourself going off on tangents and start talking about this thing over here and rather the thing you were talking about, having a structure creates a roadmap in your mind. It's much easier for you to keep moving forward on that roadmap rather than going off on tangents and finding yourself getting lost. So if you've got that structure, it will help your thoughts and speech be clear. It helps you keep to time, which is really, really, really important. There's less danger of you kind of meandering off and getting lost. And also, and this is a really, really important one, it will help you deal with audience questions that aren't immediately relevant. So we've all been there, we've all been talking, we think we're talking about this particular thing, and then someone from our group or audience will say, but what about so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so? And you're like, but we're not really talking about that. And it sort of throws you and you feel like you might need to answer that question. But if you're very clear about your destination and why your audience need to get there, and you know you need to stick to time, it means you're able in that moment to say, that's a great question. Not really what we're talking about right now, but we'll come back to that afterwards. I'll come and find you. Let's talk in the coffee break or whatever it might be. So you can very quickly and easily deal with distractions that might take you off tangent because you're clear. And then number 5, if you've got structure, you've got very clear content, and you're being super concise, guess what? So much easier to remember. You don't need vast amounts of notes. So you look much more like the expert that you are, because you've got a very simple roadmap in your head and you can just follow it. So you don't need copious amounts of notes. So if you use structure, this is number 6, and this is a really, really important one. It will save you time every time. It can feel really easy to go, oh, it's just easy. I'll just kind of dash it out. I'll kind of scribble it out in my mind. I know where I'm going. But if you've got a very, very clear structure, it will save you time, particularly if you use it over and over and you get used to using that structure. And it means you can have a 5-minute conversation that's prepared in 2 minutes, or you can have a 50-minute conversation that will take you, a very short amount of time to prepare when you've got that structure. So it stops you from over preparing, putting too much in there, overstuffing your presentation, and the potential for you, overwhelming, boring your audience. So to recap those 6 different things, the 6 elements of the reasons why you need to have a structure. Number 1, it stops you from overstuffing. It stops you from telling everybody everything you know and telling them what they need to know. It allows you to have a really clear destination, therefore a clear message. It allows you to be super concise, and nobody complained about a short presentation as long as it's insightful, ever. It helps keep your thoughts and your speech on track so you don't get lost as often as you currently do. It will make it so much easier for you to remember your content, and it will save you time every single time. I would really encourage you to use structure. And if you're like, well, that's great, Emma, but what structure do I use? There are millions of structures out there, millions. I have one very simple 3-stage structure. And if you are interested in finding out what that is, I have a brilliant 1-page PDF, which is fillable. So you can just drop your content in there, and that's your preparation for your presentation done. You will need to do the deck. It doesn't do that for you, but it will help you prepare. So if you'd like that, it's yours. DM me and I will send it to you. I hope you found this useful. Take care. Bye for now.